What if ancient Rome had invented the internet? The first message crosses the harbor of Alexandria on a morning when the sea is too calm to hide a mistake. Ilia Marcia stands on the flat roof of an imperial workshop with one hand wrapped around a copper lever and the other resting on a clay box filled with vinegar, zinc, and copper plates. Below her, fishing boats move between the quays. Beyond them, the Pharos rises through pale haze. On the opposite side of the water, a second workshop waits behind an open shutter. A black flag hangs from its roof. Ilia has promised the men beside her that the flag will move without a runner, a trumpet, a mirror, or a flame. The promise sounded less foolish at midnight. She is 31 years old, a Roman citizen born in Alexandria, the daughter of a surveyor who measured aqueduct gradients and a mother who kept accounts for a papyrus merchant. She has spent 12 years repairing water clocks, temple mechanisms, harbor cranes, and instruments used by astronomers who disagree about nearly everything except the unreliability of craftsmen. The object beneath her hand does not resemble a miracle. It resembles a badly made storage chest connected to a long wire. The wire runs down the building, through a ceramic conduit, beneath the quay, and along the harbor wall. Linen soaked in pine resin separates the copper from damp stone. At intervals, the line enters small boxes containing iron arms wound with more copper. When current reaches one of those coils, the arm moves and closes a fresh local circuit powered by its own clay cells. Each box renews the signal rather than asking one weak pulse to survive the entire distance. Ilia calls the boxes repeaters. Her senior patron calls them expensive hinges. Lucius Valerius, the courier assigned to witness the test, calls them competition. Lucius is broad-shouldered, gray at the temples, and permanently dissatisfied with any invention that claims to make distance less important. For 22 years he has carried imperial dispatches along the Cursus Publicus, changing horses at official stations, sleeping in rooms that smelled of leather and old smoke, and learning which roads flooded before local governors admitted they had flooded. Ilia asked for a courier because she needed someone who understood messages rather than wires. Lucius came because the prefect ordered him. If this works, he says, what exactly arrives over there? A mark. One mark first. And if Rome wishes to ask Syria whether an army has crossed a river, we send several marks. How many? As many as the sentence requires. Lucius looks toward the opposite roof. Then I hope the Parthians cross slowly. The clay box produces a faint bubbling sound. Ilia checks the wire connection again. The current comes from a sequence of cells, each built from metals that artisans have known for centuries but never arranged for this purpose. The zinc itself required a separate breakthrough. Roman brass makers understood how zinc or changed copper, but they did not normally isolate the metal. Ilia's workshop learned to trap zinc vapor during heating and condense it inside sealed ceramic vessels. That discovery had seemed valuable because zinc made better fittings. Then a worker placed zinc and copper into sour wine, touched the metals together, and shouted when his tongue met the circuit. Most inventions begin less elegantly than later monuments suggest. Ilia presses the lever. Current moves through the first coil. The iron arm snaps downward. A second circuit closes. The movement repeats along the harbor line, too fast for any human observer to follow from box to box. Across the water, the black flag rises. No one on Ilia's roof speaks. The flag falls. It rises again. 3 short movements. 1 long. 2 short. The pattern means ready. Ilia had designed a code using groups of short and long pulses because the mechanism can distinguish duration more reliably than strength. A complete alphabet exists on the wax tablet beside her, though several letters share patterns until context separates them. Numbers have their own forms. Common military commands use short groups. A longer mark indicates the end of a word. Lucius walks to the parapet as though proximity might reveal a hidden runner. Elia sends the agreed sentence. The eastern gate is open. The receiving workshop answers. The eastern gate is closed. Your test sentence is false. Lucius laughs before anyone else. The sound releases the roof. Workers cheer. The workshop director embraces Elia without asking permission. Someone begins shouting toward the harbor as though the fishing crews have contributed. Elia does not cheer immediately. She is watching the black flag. The first message sent through her system has already produced correction. A runner would have carried the false sentence faithfully. A sealed imperial tablet would have preserved the authority of the sender. The line returned an answer. That difference will matter more than the speed. The year is 138, during the final months of Hadrian's reign. The Roman Empire stretches from Britain to Egypt and from the Atlantic coast of Hispania to the eastern deserts. Roads, sea lanes, tax offices, military stations, and legal documents hold its territories together. The emperor can issue an order in Rome and expect obedience near the Euphrates, but the order travels through weather, fatigue, broken bridges, hostile country, corrupt officials, and human memory. A message to a distant frontier may require weeks. An answer requires weeks more. Rome rules an enormous present that it cannot observe at once. The empire already possesses something like a nervous system. The cursus publicus carries officials and dispatches through networks of stations. Military beacon lines can signal simple warnings. Ships move letters and accounts across the Mediterranean. Provincial governors send reports. Merchants maintain private correspondence. Families separated by service, trade, enslavement, or marriage write on papyrus, wood, pottery, and wax. At a fort on the northern edge of Britain, officers and their households exchange invitations, supply requests, military reports, complaints, and ordinary affection on thin wooden tablets. In Alexandria, accountants record grain. In Pompeii, walls carry advertisements, insults, declarations of love, and political slogans. Rome is not silent. It is delayed. Elia has not invented human communication. She has made delay small enough to become a different political fact. The Imperial Workshop Director sends the test report to Rome by ship because there is no line beyond Alexandria. Lucius carries a duplicate by road. Elia remains with the wire. For 11 days, she and her workers send messages across the harbor until the repeaters fail in every possible way. Resin melts in heat. Copper corrodes. Clay cells leak. Iron arms stick. Two messages merge because an operator begins before the previous answer finishes. A short pulse becomes long when a contact catches. A clerk copies a code group incorrectly and turns a request for rope into a request for onions. Lucius returns from the first relay station sooner than expected. The emperor has not answered. A senator has. Publius Fabius Vero arrives in Alexandria with 3 secretaries, 6 guards, and the expression of a man accustomed to seeing public resources become private opportunities. Vero is 58, wealthy from estates in Africa and shipping contracts tied to Egyptian grain. He serves on committees dealing with roads, provincial administration, and military supply. He has spent much of his career learning that information becomes valuable before it becomes accurate. He asks Elia to demonstrate the line. She sends the harbor office a request for the number of grain ships unloaded that morning. The answer returns before Vero finishes asking how long the process usually takes. 14 ships, 3 from the western delta, 11 from the eastern mouths, 2 delayed for inspection. Vero reads the wax strip produced by the receiving mechanism. A stylus attached to the final relay has pressed short and long grooves into a rotating wax drum. A clerk translates the grooves into letters. "You still need a clerk," he says. "You need someone to compose the message, and someone to read it." "Yes." "Then this does not speak to everyone. Neither does a road." Vero smiles slightly. Roads carry people who cannot read. The line could carry symbols, numbers, or fixed instructions? Could it carry a seal? Ilya understands the real question. It can carry a pattern representing a seal. Can that pattern be copied? Yes. Then it is not a seal. A carved seal can also be copied. Not easily. Nothing important remains difficult forever. Vero studies her more carefully after that. He offers imperial funding before the emperor has approved it. In return, he wants a line from Alexandria to the grain warehouses at Pelusium, then onward towards Caesarea and Antioch. Military and tax messages will have priority. Private use will require authorization. The code tables will belong to the state. Ilya asks why a senator responsible for Western estates wishes to build eastward. Because the Eastern workshops contain better mathematicians, Vero says. And because the next war is usually there. Lucius, standing near the door, asks who will maintain hundreds of relay boxes across deserts and mountains. Vero points at him. People who already maintain roads. That answer brings Lucius fully into the project. The first long line takes 4 months. It is not one wire. It is a chain of local systems linked by stations. Copper is too costly to waste, too attractive to thieves, and too resistive over immense distances without repeaters. Lines follow roads where possible because the state can guard and repair them. Ceramic conduits protect wires near cities. In rural areas, treated linen and bitumen provide imperfect insulation. Bridges carry cables beneath stone arches. River crossings use suspended lines or short underwater sections sealed inside lead sleeves. Every 50 to 80 miles, a principal station stores fresh cells, spare wire, iron contacts, code tables, and wax drums. Smaller repeater houses stand between them. Operators listen for the click of relays and watch needles twitch across marked boards. At night, lamps burn beside equipment that cannot be left unattended. The network gains a name from the workers before officials choose one. They call it the Redi, the net. Vero prefers Nexus Augusti, the bond of Augustus. The workers keep saying Redi. The first line reaches Pelusium and immediately becomes useful for something Ilya did not predict. A warehouse fire begins near stored sailcloth. The local operator sends an alarm to Alexandria. Harbor crews stop loading additional oil onto ships headed east. Engineers are dispatched before a courier would have cleared the city gate. The fire destroys 1 building rather than 6. Vero sends the story to Rome. The imperial answer arrives by ordinary courier 3 weeks later. Hadrian has died. Antoninus Pius is emperor. The new administration wishes to inspect the invention before deciding whether it belongs to the state, the army, the Senate, the Egyptian grain service, or the gods. Ilya travels to Rome. She crosses the Mediterranean with Lucius and a cargo of batteries that leak during rough weather. Vero's secretary, a 15-year-old enslaved girl named Sabina, spends the voyage copying code tables. Sabina was born near Tarraco in Hispania and sold after her father's debts consumed the household. She reads Latin and Greek, keeps accounts, writes quickly, and has learned when educated men prefer not to notice that she understands them. Vero calls her useful. Ilya calls her by name. During the voyage, Sabina asks why the code uses different patterns for letters that occur often. To shorten common messages, Ilya says, then the code assumes which language matters. It begins with Latin and Greek. Begins. Ilya hears the challenge. Sabina points to a sequence on the wax tablet. This group means grain. Yes. The same group could mean wheat, barley, flour, ration, or cargo if the operator uses a different table. That would cause errors. It might also save marks. Ilya sits beside her. Together, they begin designing tables for specialized traffic. Military stations can use compact groups for units, roads, supplies, and threats. Grain offices can use groups for ports, weights, moisture, spoilage, and price. Physicians might use another table one day. Lucius watches from across the cabin. "You are teaching the net to speak in professions." Sabina answers without looking up. "Professions already speak in codes." In Rome, Elia demonstrates the reedy inside a warehouse near the Tiber. A temporary line connects the building to Ostia. The Imperial Council sends questions to the port and receives answers within minutes. How many grain ships arrived? Which warehouses have empty capacity? Is the southern road passable? Has the African convoy been sighted? The answers arrive quickly enough to change the questions. That is the first moment the council understands the invention. Fast communication does not merely shorten waiting. It allows conversation. A governor can be asked to clarify. A commander can revise a report. A port can update a number before an order becomes obsolete. The empire can begin treating distant provinces not as weeks-old documents, but as participants in an unfolding exchange. Antoninus Pius does not attend the demonstration. He is represented by advisors who value stability and fear novelty in equal measure. The army wants exclusive control. The grain prefect wants priority. The treasury wants fees. The Senate wants oversight. The emperor's legal advisors want to know whether a message received through clicks and wax impressions can constitute an official order. Elia answers that the mechanism does not decide authority. A jurist replies that mechanisms always decide something. If one station refuses to relay a command, is that treason? If a pulse is corrupted, who bears responsibility? If a copied seal authorizes troops to move, is the order valid? Can a private citizen send an accusation across provinces? Can testimony travel without the witness? Does the original message exist in the sender's station, the receiver's wax, or the pattern moving between them? The law has spent centuries deciding what documents are. The ready forces it to decide what transmission is. The emperor approves a 5-year imperial trial. The first protected lines will connect Rome to Ostia and Capua, then extend through Ravenna toward the northern and Balkan roads. A southern branch will reach Brundisium. Short sea crossings may use cable where shore stations can maintain it. Longer gaps will still rely on fast vessels carrying punch strips. Military traffic will take precedence. Provincial governors may apply for terminals. Private merchants may purchase time when the lines are idle. Elia is appointed chief engineer of the Imperial Communication Works. Lucius becomes inspector of stations. Sabina remains Vero's property. The reedy expands because the empire already knows how to build networks. Surveyors map routes. Legions dig trenches. State workshops standardize fittings. Potters produce identical ceramic insulators. Metalworkers draw wire through increasingly precise plates. Chemists improve cells. Relay makers learn to replace fragile springs with weighted contacts. Clerks number messages. Couriers carry code updates and repair parts. The old roads do not become obsolete. They become more important. A message can order a bridge repaired, but stone must still move. A line can request grain, but ships and carts must carry it. A physician can describe a treatment, but medicine must reach the patient. The reedy moves information, not matter. Lucius repeats this to every courier who believes the wires will end his profession. The line tells you where to ride, he says. It does not ride. Some couriers become station inspectors. Others carry messages from towns without terminals to the nearest node. Official travel increases because decisions are made faster. The reedy does not remove distance. It reorganizes labor around it. By the 5th year, Alexandria can exchange messages with Rome in less than a day through the Eastern and Balkan road trunks when no principal station fails. The phrase less than a day sounds slow only to people born much later. To a Roman administrator, it is close to simultaneity. Elia stands in the central station beneath the Palatine and watches the first complete message arrive from Egypt. A flood gauge on the Nile is higher than expected. Grain forecasts must be revised. The message contains 97 words, broken into 12 packets. Each packet carries the origin station, destination, sequence number, length, and a numerical check derived from the marks inside it. If the receiving total does not match, the station requests the packet again. Sabina devised the check after watching a relay error turn 6,000 amphorae into 16,000. Vero took credit before the emperor. Sabina now works at the Palatine station because Vero considers her useful near the system he helped fund. She translates packets, supervises wax drums, and notices errors before freeborn clerks admit they have made them. Ilia asks Vero to free her. Vero answers that freedom would allow Sabina to leave. That is generally part of the meaning, Ilia says. She owes me. For what? Education. Food. Position. Sabina is standing close enough to hear and far enough that Vero can pretend she does not. He does not free her. The reedy reaches beyond imperial offices through money. Merchants are the first private users. A shipper in Carthage can ask the price of grain in Rome before committing cargo. A textile dealer in Antioch can learn whether purple dye has arrived in Corinth. Insurers compare reports of storms and piracy. Warehouse owners coordinate storage. Prices begin moving together across regions because information reaches markets before goods do. Some merchants become richer. Others lose the advantage created by knowing something days before competitors. The network does not make trade fair. It changes which inequalities are profitable. Public terminals appear in basilicas, ports, baths, and marketplaces. A citizen pays a clerk to send a message. The clerk converts speech into code, places the packet on the line, and later reads the reply aloud. People who cannot write still use the reedy through intermediaries. The clerk therefore gains power. A message may be shortened, softened, delayed, exposed, or refused. Fees vary. Women without male guardians are denied in some cities and served in others. Enslaved people are usually forbidden from sending private messages, though they carry orders for owners. Soldiers receive limited allowances. Wealthy households rent dedicated lines. The first private message sent from Rome to Alexandria is not a philosophical question. It is a demand for payment. The second is a marriage negotiation. The third asks whether a child has survived a fever. Ilia learns this from copied traffic reports and requests that private content be removed from administrative summaries. Vero objects. He says the state must know whether the lines are being misused. Ilia asks what misuse means. He answers, anything dangerous. To whom? That is why oversight belongs to government. The reedy becomes an archive almost by accident. Operators keep wax impressions of packets in case disputes arise. Wax is reusable, so important messages are copied onto papyrus or thin wooden sheets. Stations store daily ledgers: origin, destination, time, fee, seal, and packet count. The Palatine station builds rooms for records. Provincial offices send copies of laws, tax assessments, military reports, and judgments. At first, finding an old message requires a clerk who remembers where it was placed. Sabina develops an index. She assigns subjects numerical paths: grain, roads, law, military supply, disease, flood, fire, ship, person, place. Every record can receive several references. Rotating wooden drums store punched bronze strips representing the index numbers. A clerk turns the drums to align categories and receives a list of shelves. It is not a search engine. It is close enough to change administration. A governor can ask whether another province faced the same bridge failure. A jurist can retrieve earlier rulings. A physician can compare reports from distant cities. A tax office can find inconsistent declarations. A security official can trace who sent messages to whom. The same index serves memory and surveillance because those functions often share architecture. Ilia sees the danger. Vero sees efficiency. Sabina sees both. The first public forum begins as graffiti. A group of students in Rome discovers that a station's announcement channel can relay short notices to several cities. They send jokes, election slogans, riddles, and quotations. Operators delete most of them. Copies continue appearing because the students learn how to disguise public messages as requests for book catalogs. A bookseller pays the station to distribute a list of new scrolls. A physician posts advice during a heat wave. A chariot faction announces victories. A woman in Ostia asks whether anyone has seen her missing brother. People begin visiting terminals not only to send, but to read. Station walls fill with copied notices. The notices receive replies. Clerks group them by subject. Merchants sponsor boards. Temples maintain religious discussions. Teachers answer questions for fees. Actors announce performances. Political clients praise patrons. Anonymous insults multiply. The imperial administration calls these boards distributed notices. Everyone else calls them fora. The reading now carries messages among people who would never have exchanged letters because they did not know one another existed. That is the moment it becomes more than a telegraph. Ilya understands this while reading a thread from 3 cities arguing about the best treatment for infected wounds. A military surgeon in Britannia recommends wine and honey. A physician in Ephesus objects to one preparation. A midwife in Alexandria describes cleaning instruments in boiling water, though she explains the practice through balance and purity rather than microbes nobody has discovered. The exchange does not produce modern medicine. It produces comparison. Knowledge that once remained local can be challenged by distant experience. Claims gain witnesses. Errors gain audiences. Useful practices spread faster. Harmful practices spread faster too. Ilya asks Sabina what the reedy has become. Sabina looks at the crowded public hall, the merchants dictating prices, the soldiers reading notices, the clerks sorting replies, and the guards watching everyone. A city without streets, she says. Cities contain libraries and markets. They also contain prisons. The first great test of the reedy begins with a fever in the east. By then, Antoninus Pius is dead. Marcus Aurelius and Lucius Verus rule together. Roman armies have campaigned against Parthia, moving through cities where soldiers, traders, animals, and refugees share water, quarters, and disease. Reports reach Antioch of sudden fever, weakness, eruptions on the skin, and death. In the world without the reedy, such news would travel with soldiers and ships, mixed with rumor, arriving after the disease. In this world, the descriptions arrive first. One of the first detailed packets comes from a military physician attached to the Eastern Command, containing symptoms, progression, and numbers. The message is copied to Rome, Alexandria, Ephesus, Carthage, and major ports. Galen of Pergamon, in Rome when the epidemic reaches the capital, adds observations from his own patients. Other physicians answer with theirs. Some diagnoses contradict one another. Some treatments are dangerous. One report recommends bleeding until faintness. Another recommends cool water and rest. Priests attribute the illness to offended gods. Astrologers calculate dates. The network does not know which message is true. It knows only how to carry them. Ilya is 58 and no longer climbs towers without complaining. She directs engineering from Rome while younger crews extend branches toward Gaul, Hispania, and the Danube. Sabina, now in her 40s, manages the central archive and public forums. Lucius has become the inspector whom every station fears because he arrives without warning and asks to see the oldest battery. The first plague packet reaches them before dawn. Sabina reads it twice. Do we post this publicly? The Imperial Health Council has not yet issued an order. The army prefers secrecy. Grain officials fear panic at ports. Merchants fear quarantine. The palace fears appearing unable to protect Rome from an enemy without a border. Ilya asks how many copies already exist. 28 principal stations receive the military route. Then it is already public. It is known to officials. Officials have families. Sabina posts a verified summary to the Public Health Forum. She marks the source, date, route, and uncertainty. She does not call the illness a plague. She advises cities to report clusters, isolate the visibly sick where possible, reduce crowding around barracks, clean bedding, and avoid claiming certainty about treatments. The palace reprimands her before noon. The first independent report arrives from Smyrna before evening. Within days, the Reedy begins constructing the nearest thing the ancient world has ever seen to an epidemic map. Stations report deaths, symptoms, troop movements, ship arrivals, and shortages. The data are incomplete. Poor districts report less. Rural villages without nodes disappear into blank spaces. Officials understate numbers to avoid trade restrictions. Rivals exaggerate them to damage cities. Yet patterns emerge. Cases follow military roads and sea routes. Crowded ports report outbreaks after troop transports arrive. Places that separate sick soldiers from markets sometimes delay spread. No one discovers viruses. No one possesses germ theory. Roman medicine remains a mixture of observation, inherited authority, practical skill, philosophy, superstition, and error. The Reedy does not carry knowledge from the future. It allows ancient people to compare the present more rapidly. That is enough to alter decisions. Ships from heavily affected ports are directed to separate anchorages. Soldiers are quartered outside some city walls. Public baths reduce hours. Games are postponed in several provinces. Grain distribution is reorganized to prevent crowds from remaining in one place too long. Wealthy households flee anyway. Poor people remain exposed. The network saves lives. It also creates panic faster than any mounted messenger could ride. A forged packet appears on the public forum claiming that Egyptian grain carries the disease. The seal resembles an official health mark. The wording is calm, specific, and false. It advises households to destroy flour delivered after a certain date. Within an hour, copies reach ports from Ostia to Massilia. Bakers refuse shipments. Crowds overturn carts. A warehouse burns in Puteoli. In Rome, people accuse Alexandrian merchants of selling poisoned grain. 2 men are killed before guards restore order. The original packet did not come from Egypt. Sabina traces its route through station ledgers. It entered the Reedy at a private merchant terminal outside Capua, passed through 3 relays, and was copied by users who believed the official-looking seal. The sender used a stolen code table. Vero, now old and increasingly attached to the network that enriched him, demands that every public message require a registered name. Sabina asks whether registered names prevent lies. They allow punishment, after the lie has traveled. Then close the public fora during emergencies. Elias says, that would also close corrections. Vero turns toward her. You built a road for rumors. I built a road. People carried rumors before it. Not at this speed. The phrase becomes the central accusation against the Reedy. Not at this speed. Speed has made every weakness more visible. A lie no longer needs days to produce consequences. A correction no longer has days either. Sabina designs a new provenance system. Important messages carry a chain of station marks showing where they entered, which official office authorized them, and whether the text changed during copying. Each principal station keeps a daily code known only to paired offices. A verified packet does not merely display a seal. It carries a sequence that depends on the date, route, and message length. It is not modern cryptography. It makes casual forgery harder. Sabina insists on a distinction the palace dislikes. A verified source is not a verified truth. The health forum displays both separately. Source confirmed. Claim disputed. Source unknown. Report corroborated by 3 cities. No independent report. These labels become part of public reading. People ignore them when afraid. They also learn to use them. The grain rumor is corrected within the same day. The correction cannot undo the deaths or burn warehouse. It prevents more cities from acting on the forged warning. The network's harm and remedy travel through the same relays. The palace blames Sabina for posting the original plague summary without permission. Vero offers to protect her if she returns to his household. She is still enslaved. For 27 years, she has designed code tables, indexes, packet checks, and archive systems used across the empire. Her name appears on internal documents when convenient and disappears from official announcements when credit matters. She can authorize the transmission of an imperial decree and cannot legally decide where to sleep. Elia again asks Vero to free her. He refuses again. This time Sabina does not remain quiet. She sends a short message to every principal station. The message contains no imperial secret. It lists the procedures she created and the years they entered service. Packet sequence checks, subject indexing, archive retrieval paths, provenance chains, public uncertainty marks. Beside each item, she places the names of the workers who developed it, including enslaved operators, metalworkers, clerks, and station servants. At the end, she writes, "A network that remembers every source should not forget ITS makers." The message becomes the most copied item in the Reedy's history. Operators post it on station walls. Students quote it. Merchants complain that private technical records have been exposed. Senators call it insubordination. Enslaved scribes memorize it before guards remove copies. Vero orders Sabina confined. Lucius arrives at the Palatine station with an imperial travel warrant and takes her out through the record's entrance. He is 69 and walks with a cane. The guards hesitate because everyone knows him and nobody knows whether his authority includes removing another man's property from an imperial building. That uncertainty is enough. Elia petitions the emperor's legal counsel. She argues not that Sabina deserves freedom because of kindness, but that the network cannot depend on specialists whose legal status allows private owners to remove them from public service at will. The argument is cold, strategic, and therefore more persuasive to officials than justice alone. Marcus Aurelius receives a summary while campaigning on the Danube. The answer returns through the Reedy. Sabina is purchased by the imperial treasury and freed for service to the state. The order gives her liberty through another form of obligation. She accepts. Vero receives compensation. He calls the result theft. Sabina uses her first legal earnings to buy a small house near the Aventine. She keeps the manumission tablet beside her bed for a year, then moves it into a drawer because freedom that must be looked at constantly does not yet feel secure. The plague continues. So does the network. Mortality weakens workshops and stations. Operators die. Copper lines go unrepaired. Battery chemicals become scarce. In affected regions, message is slow because fewer hands remain to replace cells and copy packets. The Reedy reveals a fact later generations will repeatedly rediscover. Information systems appear weightless only when the labor beneath them remains invisible. Every pulse depends on miners, smelters, potters, wire drawers, road crews, clerks, guards, cleaners, animal drivers, papyrus makers, and operators breathing near one another. The network cannot escape the society that maintains it. Elia orders training manuals copied widely, so stations do not depend on one expert. Sabina creates redundant archives in Alexandria, Rome, Antioch, Carthage, and Lugdunum. Lucius requires every major route to possess at least one alternate path. If the Rome-Capua line fails, packets can travel through Ostia and the coastal branch. If a sea relay closes, messages can route through northern Africa. If the Palatine station burns, provincial archives retain laws and code histories. Redundancy looks wasteful during ordinary months. The plague makes it survival. The Reedy also changes education. Before the network, literacy in the Roman world varied enormously by place. occupation, wealth, gender, legal status, and the meaning assigned to reading and writing. Cities contained inscriptions, notices, accounts, letters, graffiti, and specialized clerks. Some artisans possessed practical literacy. Elite education remained far deeper and more expensive. Many people relied on others to read and compose. The public terminals create new incentives. A dock worker who can recognize addresses avoids paying a clerk for every message. A soldier who can read forum notices learns about transfers before rumor reaches the barracks. A shopkeeper who reads prices negotiates better. Families teach children enough letters to use local nodes. Temples, collegia, merchant associations, and city councils fund basic schools. Literacy expands. It does not become universal. The network's written form creates a new class of exclusion beside the old one. People who cannot read depend on public scribes. Blind users rely on oral reading. People who speak Latin poorly may understand spoken messages, but struggle with standardized written forms. Greek remains dominant across much of the Eastern Empire. Local languages continue in homes, markets, and religious life. The Rete does not make Rome linguistically uniform. Engineers respond with symbols, standardized menus, color marks, and numbered categories. At some terminals, users move wooden tokens through slots to select common messages. A red disc requests medical help. A ship's symbol opens trade routes. A military family can enter a unit number and receive public posting information. These systems widen access. They also narrow expression. A person can select "I am safe" more easily than explain what safety cost. Sabina funds free reading rooms besides several terminals. She hires former slaves, widows, disabled veterans, and teachers who lost students during the plague. The rooms become crowded because they offer more than literacy. They offer access to distant conversations. A young woman in Ostia reads a legal discussion posted in Rome and asks whether a husband may seize earnings from work performed under her own contract. A potter in Gaul studies kiln temperatures reported from Africa. A Jewish scholar in Antioch debates a Greek philosopher in Athens. A Christian teacher copies letters through the network and reaches communities that once waited months for instruction. Priests of traditional cults coordinate festivals. Astrologers sell personal predictions by packet. Mystery religions advertise initiation. Skeptics publish mockery. Imperial officials monitor all of them. The Rete accelerates belief without choosing among beliefs. Religious movements spread faster. So do disputes within them. A doctrine can reach 10 cities before elders agree on its wording. Rival teachers quote one another out of context. Councils are summoned sooner because disagreements become visible sooner. Communities define boundaries earlier. The network does not dissolve faith into information. It gives theology an audience and a reply function. Scientific exchange changes in similar ways. Astronomers report eclipses from multiple longitudes. Surveyors compare measurements. Physicians build case lists. Engineers share bridge failures rather than hiding them. Mathematicians circulate problems. Natural philosophers argue about causes using observations that once remained trapped in local schools. Progress accelerates, but not smoothly. Authority travels as quickly as evidence. A famous scholar's wrong claim spreads farther than an unknown craftsperson's correct observation. Imperial sponsorship determines which archives receive resources. Greek texts dominate learned forums because centuries of scholarship already support them. Practical knowledge from women, enslaved workers, farmers, miners, and non-light healers enters the network only when someone with access records it. Sabina creates a forum called Test and Reply. Any technical claim posted there must include the method used, materials, location, and result. Other users attempt replication and send outcomes. The system is inconsistent, vulnerable to fraud, and revolutionary in principle. A bridge designed from Syria fails under northern frost. A mortar mixture from Campania performs well near salt water. A treatment for fever shows no consistent benefit across 6 cities. A claim that a magnet loses strength under moonlight is tested repeatedly and abandoned. No one calls this modern science. It develops one of science's habits: public comparison of repeatable experience. Ilya watches younger engineers use the reedy to improve the reedy. Relay coils become smaller. Zinc production becomes more reliable. Wire insulation improves through layered linen, wax, and resin. Operators develop automatic interrupters that send regular timing pulses. Mechanical encoders allow a trained clerk to press lettered levers rather than compose every pattern by hand. The network speed increases from a few words per minute to dozens under ideal conditions. That creates more traffic. More traffic creates congestion. Military packets wait behind commercial price lists. Personal messages block legal notices. Popular forum arguments fill station drums. Operators secretly prioritize friends. Wealthy users pay for faster routing. Sabina introduces classes of service: emergency, imperial, public safety, commercial, personal, forum. The order appears rational until users disagree about whose emergency counts. A governor marks tax reports as public safety. A merchant claims a spoiled cargo threatens grain supply. A senator labels family messages imperial. A midwife's request for a physician waits behind a military inventory. Classification becomes politics. Lucius proposes a rule learned from roads. Every route must reserve capacity for people without privilege. On a road, this means keeping a lane open during an official procession. On the reedy, it means every station transmits a fixed number of ordinary packets between priority groups. The rule is adopted unevenly. It saves lives anyway. The empire begins depending on the network before admitting dependence. Legions coordinate supply. Tax offices compare records. Grain fleets receive weather and storage reports. Courts retrieve precedent. Governors hold remote councils through sequences of messages. The emperor receives summaries each morning from provinces whose reports once arrived seasonally. The summaries create an illusion. Rome appears to see the empire. In reality, it sees what stations record. Villages outside the network vanish. Governors choose which numbers to send. Operators compress complex conditions into codes. A province can appear calm because no category exists for the fear moving through it. Ilya warns the council that faster information may become narrower information. A young official answers, "Then we need more categories." Sabina says, "Or more humility." The official records only the first suggestion. During the Northern Wars, Marcus Aurelius uses the reedy to coordinate armies along the Danube. The military branch proves its value. Scouts report crossings. Supply shortages are redirected. Reinforcements change route before marching into blocked passes. Commanders receive strategic guidance from Rome faster than any ancient army has known. The victories are real. So is the new vulnerability. An enemy does not need to defeat a legion if it can cut the line feeding the legion's decisions. Germanic raiders learn to identify repeater houses. They steal copper, destroy cells, and leave false tracks. Roman patrols begin guarding wires as seriously as roads. Stations receive walls and towers. Engineers bury lines deeper. Military planners become anxious when communication fails for hours. Before the reedy, commanders expected isolation. After it, silence feels like attack. A legionary commander near Carnuntum waits for authorization to retreat from a dangerous position. The line is cut during a storm. He delays because an answer may arrive. It does not. Hundreds are lost. Lucius reads the report and says, "A fast road teaches people to forget they have feet." The army changes doctrine. Local commanders regain authority when contact is lost. Every remote order includes conditions under which it expires. Packets carry the time sent, not only the time received. A commander must judge the age of information. The Reedy teaches Rome that communication does not eliminate uncertainty. It can make uncertainty arrive stamped with authority. Marcus Aurelius dies in the year 180. The announcement reaches major cities within hours. For the first time, most of the empire learns of an emperor's death before local officials have time to prepare the meaning. Public fora fill with mourning, suspicion, prayers, market predictions, military declarations, and arguments about his son Commodus. Provincial governors send loyalty messages. Legions post formal acclamations. Merchants change prices. Temples announce rites. The empire experiences succession as a shared event. Commodus inherits not only armies, treasury, palace, and title. He inherits the Reedy. He is 19 years old. Aelia is 73. Sabina is 57. Lucius is 84 and still refuses retirement. The network they built to reduce distance is about to be used by a ruler who fears distance less than disagreement. Commodus understands the Reedy first as an audience. He has grown up inside palaces where every word travels through servants, secretaries, guards, tutors, and relatives. The network appears to remove those layers. When he sends a statement from Rome, it can be copied across the empire before governors reshape it. When he appears in the arena, results reach cities that cannot see him. When he renames a month, people argue about the decree while the ink is still wet. He begins with spectacle. The central station creates a live arena channel. Scribes at the Colosseum send short descriptions of races, hunts, executions, and gladiatorial bouts. Provincial fora post the updates. Taverns gather crowds around clerks who read them aloud. Bets move through commercial nodes. Chariot factions coordinate celebrations across cities. The messages are not images or sound. They are lines arriving one after another. Lion released. Net fighter down. Emperor enters arena. Crowd acclaims Hercules. Commodus reads copied reactions from Antioch, Carthage, Lugdunum, and Alexandria. He has never traveled to most of the places praising him. The praise still arrives. So does mockery. A forum user in Massilia posts that Hercules required neither heralds nor paid applause. Another calculates the grain consumed by one festival. A veteran asks whether the emperor plans to fight the Marcomanni personally after finishing with exhausted animals. The posts are copied before local officials remove them. Commodus asks why criticism is allowed on an imperial network. Sabina answers, because the forum rules prohibit threats and false official seals, not disrespect. Change the rules. By whose order? Mine. The simplicity of the answer reveals the problem. The Reedy was built under imperial authority. Public use expanded by policy, custom, local funding, and commercial demand, but no constitution protects it. The emperor can claim every wire, station, and archive as state property. Aelia had assumed that dependence would constrain rulers. An emperor who needs the network cannot destroy it casually. She had not fully considered selective control. Commodus appoints Titus Aelius Celer as prefect of network security. Celer is a fictional kind of official made possible by the new system. Part administrator, part military inspector, part archivist, part secret police. He is 46, quiet, careful, and convinced that disorder begins as unmonitored communication. He does not hate the public fora. He considers them instruments. People reveal fear, resentment, alliances, and plans voluntarily. The network no longer needs spies in every tavern if the taverns copy themselves into searchable archives. Celer proposes the Index of Concord. Every legal user receives a permanent address tied to name, status, household, city, and occupation. Public terminals record who submits each packet. Private household lines keep route logs. Anonymous forum posts remain possible only through licensed intermediaries who preserve the sender's identity for investigation. The stated purposes are fraud prevention, emergency contact, tax efficiency, and protection against forged commands. Each purpose is real. Sabina opposes the permanent link between person and message. A route needs an address, Seller says. A state does not need every life attached to one. How do we punish forgery? Investigate forgery. How do we identify conspirators? By evidence of conspiracy. Messages are evidence. Sometimes. Seller asks whether the grain rumor should have remained anonymous. Sabina asks whether every private complaint should become part of an imperial index because one rumor caused violence. Elia watches them argue and recognizes two incompatible definitions of safety. Sabina wants a network safe enough for people to speak. Seller wants an empire safe from what people may say. The index passes. Commodus does not read the technical clauses. He understands that critics can be found. The change is gradual enough to appear administrative. Users register when renewing access. Public terminals require tokens stamped with address numbers. Forum software displays status categories beside names: citizen, freed, enslaved agent, soldier, official, foreign resident, unverified. The categories were intended to clarify legal responsibility. They become social rank made visible in every conversation. A senator's statement appears beside a purple mark. A freedwoman's beside a gray one. An enslaved clerk may post only under the owner's household address. People begin judging claims by symbols before reading content. Seller's analysts create summaries for the palace. They count mentions of grain prices, military defeat, taxation, plague, Christianity, succession, and the emperor's name. They map where negative terms increase. They identify users whose messages travel unusually far. The system cannot understand irony reliably. It treats jokes as hostility and coded hostility as jokes. Officials call the reports the mood of the empire. Elia calls them the mood of people who use monitored terminals while knowing they are monitored. No one records her correction in the summary. The index changes slavery in contradictory ways. Owners use the network to track sales, debts, skills, and suspected runaways. Ports receive descriptions quickly. A person fleeing one province can be identified in another before a paper notice would arrive. Auction houses compare prices across cities. Large estates coordinate labor with brutal efficiency. At the same time, enslaved people use household access when left unsupervised. They send warnings about violent owners, identify ships willing to carry fugitives, locate relatives sold years earlier, and circulate legal information about manumission. A domestic slave in Rome finds a brother in Corinth through a forum devoted to missing family. A mine worker in Hispania sends a description of conditions to a senator's political rival. A group of educated household slaves shares instructions for hiding messages inside commercial packets. The reedy makes captivity more searchable. It also makes the captive searchable. Sabina funds a legal forum where advocates answer questions without charging. Seller requires address verification. Users stop asking. She creates a second channel through temples and burial societies that can submit collective questions without naming individuals. Seller calls it evasion. Sabina calls it representation. Their conflict becomes personal after the arrest of a young operator named Felix. Felix works at a station near Tarraco, not far from the place Sabina was born. He is the son of a cousin she located through the network after gaining freedom. She has met him twice. He sends her technical questions and overly detailed reports about local weather. Seller's system flags Felix because he routes messages for an unregistered labor association. The group consists of dockworkers protesting unpaid wages. One message uses the phrase "close the harbor." The intended meaning is "refuse loading." The security summary labels it sabotage. Felix is arrested before Sabina's explanation reaches Hispania. The same network that made the accusation travel instantly requires 3 days to move the legal correction through approved channels because emergency security traffic has priority. Lucius hears and sends his own packet using an old imperial route code. The prison releases Felix. Seller suspends Lucius's credentials. Lucius responds by mailing the physical bronze credential to the Palatine in a box of horse manure. He is 88. The palace decides not to prosecute him because no official wants to explain the incident to Commodus. Ilia asks Lucius to retire. He says, "I retired from writing. I did not retire from being correct." The 3 old collaborators meet in Sabina's house on the Aventine. Copper lines run along the street outside. A household terminal occupies one corner, a luxury Sabina once could not legally own. Ilia admits that the network has become too centralized. Lucius says it was centralized from the beginning. "We built alternate routes." Routes, yes. Authority, no. Sabina places the daily provenance table between them. Every official message ultimately trusts a master sequence generated at the Palatine station. Provincial offices hold subordinate codes. If the master mark confirms a decree, receivers treat it as imperial unless obvious errors appear. The system was designed to prevent provincial forgery. It also makes Rome the single source of legitimacy. Ilia says they can distribute authority among several archives. Seller will oppose it. The emperor will oppose it more. Lucius taps the table. Then stop asking the center for permission to become less central. Sabina proposes a second verification method called the civic chain. Laws, emergency orders, and succession announcements would require confirmation from several independent institutions: the Palatine, Senate Archive, principal provincial stations, and military commands affected by the order. A single source could still send immediate instructions, but receivers would know whether broader confirmation followed. Ilia sees the engineering value. Sabina sees political restraint. Lucius sees another route. They begin quietly. Alexandria, Carthage, Antioch, Lugdunum, and Ravenna agree to preserve local signing tables and compare major decrees. The officials involved justify the process as backup against fire or sabotage. Copies of the protocol spread through technical manuals. Seller notices. He summons Sabina. "You are creating competing seals. I am creating independent confirmation. Imperial authority does not require a vote by relay stations. Then the message will show that only imperial authority confirms it. You want a provincial clerk to place doubt beside the emperor's words. I want the clerk to state where the words came from." Seller leans back. "You still believe information becomes safer when more people can inspect it. Usually, I believe authority becomes weaker when every instruction arrives as an argument. Sometimes authority should become weaker." That sentence enters her file. Commodus's government grows more suspicious as his popularity declines. Executions, confiscations, court intrigue, and displays of personal divinity feed public anger. The Reti does not create those conditions. It makes them difficult to isolate. A grain shortage in Rome becomes a provincial argument about palace spending. A military defeat becomes a debate about command. An execution becomes a copied farewell letter. The emperor orders forum moderation tightened. Terms mocking his titles are prohibited. Users replace them with images, numbers, and references to myths. Censors ban the substitutions. New ones appear. The Reti teaches political language to mutate under pressure. One famous satire describes a lion who insists every animal call him Hercules while guards count the applause. It never names Commodus. Everyone understands. Seller identifies the author through route records and arrests a schoolteacher in Capua. Copies of the satire increase tenfold. Repression becomes publicity because deletion itself generates messages. The palace learns to flood rather than erase. Paid users post praise, accusations against critics, fabricated reports of provincial enthusiasm, and contradictory explanations. The goal is not always to make people believe one story. It is to make certainty exhausting. Sabina recognizes the method during a week when 5 different accounts of a military mutiny circulate, all carrying partial verification. Too much noise can function like silence, she tells Elia. Elia remembers the calm harbor and one flag answering another. The first line contained correction because only 2 workshops were speaking. The empire contains millions of motives. Technology cannot scale trust simply by scaling transmission. Yet the network continues producing ordinary good. Families remain in contact across postings. Physicians exchange case reports. Engineers coordinate repairs. Students read distant lectures. Farmers compare weather. Cities warn one another about fire and flood. A woman in Britannia sends a birthday invitation to a friend at another fort and receives an answer the same afternoon. The Vindolanda station archives the exchange because the operators wax drum jams. 2,000 years later, in the world that never existed, historians would cherish the accidental copy for a different reason than the wooden invitation preserved in the real one. They would hear not only a Roman woman writing, but a Roman woman expecting immediate reply. Most users do not think of the ready as imperial transformation. They think of the person who answered. Commodus's final year begins with a failed assassination plot. The conspirators include people within the palace. They do not trust the ready for planning because Seller monitors addresses. They use servants, private meetings, and handwritten notes. This failure of surveillance does not make Seller doubt surveillance. It makes him demand more. Household terminals must store complete message copies for 30 days. Public stations must report unusual code patterns. Private ciphers are prohibited. Engineering manuals become restricted. Station operators swear personal oaths to the emperor. Elia refuses the new oath. She has served 4 reigns. She says the network belongs to the Roman state, not the body of one ruler. Seller removes her from official leadership. At 85, she becomes unemployed from the institution she created. The announcement reaches every station under her own provenance system. Engineers send messages of protest. She asks them to keep working. If you leave, she writes, the wires do not become innocent. They become unattended. Sabina remains director of archives, but loses access to security routes. Lucius loses all formal credentials and keeps appearing at stations anyway because half the operators were trained by people he trained. The Reedy's founders are outside the center. Seller believes this makes the center safer. In the last month of 192, Commodus announces that the coming year will begin under new names. Rome itself is to bear his titles. Legions, months, and institutions are reordered around his identity. The Reedy distributes the decrees instantly. Mockery appears before the official inscriptions are carved. The emperor demands lists of users who repost it. Seller provides them. Plans form inside the palace to kill Commodus before he can kill more people around him. In real history, the emperor dies on the final day of the year, strangled after an attempted poisoning. In this alternate history, the inner conspiracy still uses a wrestler's strength rather than a network command. No technology removes the vulnerability of a ruler sleeping among people who fear him. Commodus dies in his bath complex after nightfall. For 19 minutes, only the conspirators know. Then a palace clerk sends a packet to the Senate station announcing that the emperor is dead and Pertinax has been asked to assume power. Seller intercepts it. He has prepared for succession, though not for this succession. The Palatine Master Station is sealed. Guards block entrances. Seller orders operators to transmit a different message. Attempt on the emperor failed. Commodus lives. Treason within palace. All provincial commands hold position. Recognize only orders bearing the Palatine Master Seal. The packet carries valid authentication. Across the empire, stations accept it. The dead emperor remains alive in the network. Pertinax is inside the city, attempting to secure the Praetorian Guard and Senate. He sends his own announcement through the Senate archive. It carries no Palatine master seal. Stations label it unconfirmed. The civic chain Ilia and Sabina created begins producing warnings. Palatine claim not confirmed by Senate. Senate claim not confirmed by Palatine. Alexandria requests independent witness. Ravenna reports conflicting orders. The empire does not receive one succession. It receives a protocol dispute. Seller understands the threat immediately. He orders the civic confirmation channels closed. Provincial signing tables are declared illegal. Engineers maintaining them are accused of conspiracy. Sabina learns of the order when guards arrive at her house. She escapes through a rear courtyard with the help of a reading room teacher who has spent 20 years watching officials underestimate older women. Ilia is already moving toward the Palatine station. Lucius waits beside a cart in the rain. "You cannot walk there fast enough," he says. "I can still climb into a cart. The streets are blocked." "You know other streets." Lucius smiles. Distance has returned to the city. The network is controlled, so the founders travel by road. They move through alleys behind warehouses, across the cattle market, and along a service route beneath the hill. Sabina joins them near the forum, carrying the archive keys under her cloak. Rome is awake. Conflicting notices appear on walls. Guards repeat that Commodus lives. Senators insist he is dead. Praetorians demand payment before loyalty. Crowds gather around public terminals that display contradictory seals. People understand every message. They do not know which reality has authority. At the Palatine service entrance, Lucius presents a maintenance tablet older than some guards. The bronze seal belongs to an office that officially ceased existing 8 years earlier. The guards accept it because old bureaucracy often outlives certainty. Inside, the relay hall sounds like rain on metal. Messages pour outward under Seller's control. Operators work beneath armed supervision. Wax drums rotate. Iron contacts strike. The dead emperor speaks to the empire in short and long pulses. Ilia, Sabina, and Lucius enter the lower cable chamber where provincial lines separate. Ilia sees the network physically before she sees the politics. Every major route converges through switching frames above them. Cut the main bus and the Palatine loses control. Rome also loses grain coordination, military traffic, health messages, private communication, and the ability to correct the lie. Sabina says, "We can shut it down." Lucius says. Then Seller becomes the last voice anyone received. Ilia looks at the routing frames. The Rete was designed to survive broken roads. It was not designed to survive a false center. The solution cannot be another message asking the center to behave. Sabina kneels beside the archive junction and opens the iron case containing emergency route plates. The plates were designed for fire. If the Palatine Hall burned, operators could redirect packets around Rome through Ostia, Capua, Ravenna, and provincial trunks. The system would continue while the capital repaired itself. No one imagined the building might remain intact while its authority became the damage. Ilia studies the switching pattern. Her hands tremble slightly. Age has reduced strength, not recognition. "We open every alternate route," she says. "Seller will close them from above," Sabina replies. "Not if the provincial stations stop accepting his closure commands. They trust the master seal. Then we tell them the seal is compromised." "With what seal?" Ilia looks at Sabina. There is no trusted way to announce that trust has failed. Lucius sits on an equipment chest to recover his breath. Rainwater shines on his cloak. "On the road," he says, "when a bridge collapses, the bridge does not issue the detour." Sabina understands first. They do not need to prove which emperor is alive. They need to prove that the Palatine route cannot prove it alone. Every principal station has engineers who can inspect packet timing, route history, and duplicate messages. Every archive holds pieces of the civic chain. Every city contains witnesses. The network can ask them to compare. Elia removes the master architecture manual from its sealed compartment. The book contains routing logic, code allocation, failure procedures, and details restricted for 50 years. If released, hostile armies, smugglers, provincial rebels, and private companies will understand the reading more fully. They will learn where redundancy lies and how authentication works. Imperial secrecy will end. Sellers' monopoly will end with it. Elia spent her life arguing that important systems should not depend on one expert. She still kept parts of the network hidden because emperors funded the copper, guarded the stations, and demanded control. The contradiction has reached its cost. Sabina says, publish the verification tables, not the current daily keys. The method, the chain, the station histories. Enough for every operator to recognize that one seal is not proof. Lucius adds, and enough for them to build another road if this one closes. Above them, boots strike the floor. Sellers' guards are searching the station. Elia turns the manual toward Sabina. Compose it. Sabina writes on a wax tablet. Palatine master authentication is compromised. No succession or military command should be accepted from one source. Compare independent witness chains. Preserve local route tables. Do not destroy conflicting packets. Record who confirms what and when. The message does not declare Commodus dead. It declares the conditions under which that fact may be established. Elia adds the open verification method. Packets concerning succession must carry confirmations from institutions that cannot all be seized in one room. The Senate Archive, the Urban Prefecture, at least 3 provincial principal stations, a military command outside Italy, witness records. No individual confirmation is sufficient. Contradictions remain visible. Sabina adds the routing architecture needed to bypass Palatine control. Lucius reads the result. Too long. It changes the empire, Sabina says. Then shorten the first packet so it survives long enough to send the rest. They divide the protocol into numbered sections. The first carries the warning. The next packets carry the method. Each section includes a check total and instructions to copy it into local archives. Elia connects the emergency plate. The lower chamber fills with sharper clicks as alternate lines wake. Sabina sends the first packet toward Ostia. No answer. Seller has closed the city branch. She tries Ravenna. A repeater responds. She sends the warning. The packet moves north. Capua answers next, then the coastal route. Alexandria receives through a southern path. Antioch confirms. Carthage reports that it has already preserved the Senate's contradictory message. Lugdunum asks whether the Palatine station is physically occupied. Sabina replies, yes. Source, 3 present engineers. Status, armed control. Elia watches the civic chain form in real time. Not truth descending from Rome. Evidence accumulating across places. Seller enters the chamber before the 3rd protocol section finishes. He comes with 8 guards and no drawn sword. Violence near live switching frames could silence half the empire. He sees the open manual. You have released restricted architecture. Elia says, you used restricted authority to preserve a dead emperor. You do not know he is dead. Neither do your receivers. I am maintaining order until lawful succession is established. You announce that he lives. Because uncertainty at this scale becomes civil war. Sabina answers, a lie at this scale becomes government. Seller looks toward the route indicators. Too many lines are active. Close them. The chief operator hesitates. Seller repeats the order. The operator asks for confirmation. It is the first visible effect of the new protocol. Seller reaches for the master seal plate. This is confirmation. The operator looks at Sabina's warning strip beside it. The room waits. Seller says, The empire cannot function if every clerk decides whether to obey. Sabina says, the clerk is deciding whether the order is authenticated under a compromised system. You changed the system minutes ago. The compromise changed it first. Seller turns to the guards. Remove them. Lucius rises slowly and steps between the guards and the emergency frame. He carries no weapon. His age makes the gesture more difficult to answer. To strike him would look less like suppressing a coup than beating an old courier in a basement. One guard takes his arm. Lucius says, "Young man, I was changing horses on the Flaminian Way before your father learned to stand." The guard releases him from surprise. A second reaches for Sabina. A message arrives from the Senate archive. 12 senators attest that Commodus is dead. A physician who examined the body attaches a statement. The urban prefect confirms palace gates are under conflicting command. Sellers says the Senate can be coerced. A message from the Praetorian camp follows. 2 officers confirm the death. A third denies it. The contradiction remains visible. Alexandria posts the protocol to its public forum. Carthage copies it. Ravenna transmits to the Danube commands. The information has escaped the room. Seller can still cut wires. He can arrest operators. He cannot restore secrecy everywhere at once. He steps toward the main switch. Elia knows what he intends. The Palatine kill bar will ground every outgoing line and send a failure surge through local coils. It will not destroy the entire reedy, but it may silence Rome for days and damage repeaters along several branches. She reaches it first. Seller grips her wrist. She is 85. He is strong enough to move her easily. Sabina lifts the clay battery from the emergency table and pours its acidic liquid across the floor between the guards and the switch. The sharp smell fills the chamber. Men jump back from splashing clothes and metal fittings. The liquid is not lethal. Confusion is sufficient. Lucius pulls the emergency route plate free. The switching frame drops into isolated mode. Palatine control disappears from the outgoing branches. Rome goes silent. The provincial network remains alive. For the first time, the reedy routes around the capital not because Rome is burning, but because Rome cannot be trusted. Seller stares at the dead indicators. You have severed the emperor from the empire. Elia answers, there is no emperor in this room. The guards are no longer certain whose arrest order carries force. Uncertainty restrains them until senators and urban troops enter the station from above. Pertinax's supporters have secured part of the palace. Seller is taken into custody, protesting that the network will fragment without a center. He is not entirely wrong. By dawn, major stations confirm Commodus's death through multiple independent chains. Pertinax is recognized in Rome and by several provincial commands. Other legions delay. Some governors demand guarantees. The false announcement remains in the archive beside the correction. Sabina refuses requests to erase it. A lie that almost became law is part of the law's history, she says. The Palatine station returns slowly under joint supervision. For several weeks, no succession message is valid without civic chain confirmation. Operators who once followed the master seal automatically begin asking who else has attested. The change feels like liberation to some and administrative paralysis to others. Tax orders slow. Military commands face questions. Provincial stations refuse ambiguous decrees. Merchants complain that the empire has become a debate. Elia replies that it always was. The network merely removed some of the waiting between claims. Pertinax meets the 3 founders in the palace. Lucius sleeps through part of the meeting. The new emperor thanks them for preventing a false succession. He also asks them to restore a secure central seal. Sabina says no. Pertinax is startled by the directness. Elia explains that the network still needs rapid command, but no future ruler should be able to make one room equivalent to reality. Emergency orders may travel immediately. Their source, limits, and confirmation status must remain visible. provinces must preserve independent archives. Public access cannot depend solely on palace permission. Pertinax asks whether she is writing a constitution for copper wire. Someone will, she says. The question is whether it is written openly or hidden in procedures. He authorizes a commission. The Charter of the Reedy is drafted in 43 days. It contains principles rather than perfection. No single station may serve as the only source of authentication for succession, general mobilization, mass arrest, or suspension of public communication. Major routes must maintain independent alternatives. Public emergency capacity must remain available during imperial traffic. Message content may be retained only under defined legal authority, though route records remain longer for reliability. Users may employ collective or protected addresses for legal petitions. Spoken, dictated, symbolic, and written access must be supported at public nodes. Official claims must distinguish source verification from factual corroboration. Protocols required for interoperability must be published to principal stations. The palace rejects several clauses. The Senate weakens others. Praetorian commanders object to military review. Merchants object to public capacity rules. Provincial cities demand greater control. The final charter is compromised before it is adopted. It still changes the network. Pertinax does not live long enough to protect it. 3 months after becoming emperor, he confronts the Praetorian Guard over discipline and promised payments. They kill him inside the palace. The Reedy transmits the first reports within minutes. This time, no prefect can maintain a dead emperor by controlling one seal. Guards, senators, servants, and city officials send competing accounts. The civic chain confirms the murder before dawn. The speed does not save Pertinax. It prevents the killing from remaining a palace story. When Didius Julianus offers enormous payments for imperial support, the bids circulate through public fora. Romans watch the office of emperor treated like a contract auction. Satire, anger, and provincial declarations move faster than the Senate can shape legitimacy. Armies on the frontiers proclaim their own candidates. Septimius Severus in Pannonia, Pescennius Niger in Syria, Clodius Albinus in Britain. The network that was meant to hold one empire together now allows several claims to organize at once. Civil war accelerates. Commands travel faster. Alliances form sooner. Propaganda floods every forum. Each claimant publishes legal arguments, military reports, accusations, and promises. Forged casualty lists appear. Cities change loyalty based on messages that may be days old but feel immediate compared with the old world. The Charter of the Reedy does not prevent war. It changes war's information. No claimant can monopolize the narrative everywhere. Provincial nodes preserve evidence from rivals. Soldiers read appeals from opposing commanders. Families know where units are moving. Merchants anticipate sieges. Refugees receive route warnings. Spies transmit with unprecedented speed. Severus understands the network better than his competitors. He does not demand that every node trust him immediately. He secures physical stations along the roads to Italy, confirms messages through local councils, and promises to retain the civic chain. Cities cooperate because they believe their archives will survive his victory. The promise is partly sincere and partly strategic. Most durable political reforms begin with both. Julianus falls. Niger is defeated. Albinus eventually loses in the west. Severus becomes emperor. He preserves the charter's distributed authentication because it helped him expose false orders from rivals. He also expands military surveillance because the same network can identify rebellion earlier. The Reedy becomes harder for one ruler to capture and more useful for rulers generally. Sabina had hoped structural reform would reduce abuse. It reduces one form. Power adapts. Celer is tried for falsifying imperial communication, unlawful detention, and seizure of the Palatine station. He defends himself by arguing that he prevented immediate chaos and that Ilya's release of network architecture caused years of war. The claim is persuasive to people who prefer a single cause. Sabina testifies that the war came from armies, money, succession rules, personal ambition, and institutions already willing to use force. The open protocol revealed conflict. It did not invent it. Seller asks whether thousands would have died if the false message had been obeyed. Sabina answers, different thousands. He is convicted of falsification rather than treason. Severus avoids creating a martyr to centralized order. Seller is exiled to an island without a principal station. He continues writing memoranda about the danger of uncontrolled communication. The local operator forwards them because the charter protects legal petition. Lucius dies during the second year of Severus's reign. He is nearly 100. His death is not caused by war, plague, or network sabotage. He falls asleep after dinner in Sabina's house, while explaining for the third time that an inspector once found a repeater full of mice near Aquileia. Ilya discovers he is gone when she asks whether the mice survived. Sabina sends the notice through the reedy. Messages arrive from stations across the empire. Couriers, operators, engineers, merchants, soldiers, and clerks remember him. Several repeat his most quoted sentence. The line tells you where to ride. It does not ride. His funeral procession follows a short section of the Appian Way before turning toward the burial ground. Station operators along the route send timing marks as the procession passes. Ilya dislikes the ceremony until she hears hoofbeats behind the cart. Couriers from 3 services have joined without orders. The old road and the copper line accompany him together. Afterward, Ilya returns to Alexandria. She is 88 and tired of Rome's habit of treating every corridor as the center of the world. Sabina remains in the capital to lead the new independent archive college created by the charter. They exchange messages several times a week. The distance between them is smaller than it was when both lived in Rome and attended separate meetings. Ilya visits the original harbor workshop. The first line no longer exists. The quay has been rebuilt. The resin-insulated wire was replaced decades earlier. One repeater box survives in storage, its iron arm rusted, and its clay housing cracked. Ilya places it on a table beside a modern relay capable of transmitting more in 1 minute than the first system carried in an hour. The difference does not feel like inevitable progress. Every improvement depended on choices, resources, standards, and people whose names were sometimes preserved only because Sabina insisted. Ilya begins writing a history of the reedy. She does not call herself inventor in the first line. She writes, "A message crossed the harbor because many crafts met in one circuit. Mining, metallurgy, pottery, chemistry, road building, writing, accounting, military logistics, mechanical design, clerical labor, imperial money, enslaved skill, free argument, a courier's knowledge of failure. No single Roman breakthrough would have produced an internet. The network required an entire stack of discoveries and institutions. Reliable electricity, insulated wire, electromagnets, repeaters, standard codes, error checking, addressing, routing, storage, search, authentication, maintenance, literacy, public access, rules for conflict. The alternate history is not Rome finding one clever trick 2,000 years early. It is Rome discovering several centuries of science and engineering in compressed succession, then reorganizing society around the result. Ilya makes that honesty part of the record. She also records what the network did not solve. It did not eliminate slavery. It did not make emperors virtuous. It did not produce universal literacy. It did not make medicine modern overnight. It did not turn information into wisdom. It did not make every province equal. It did not prevent plague, war, rumor, censorship, or exploitation. It changed the speed, scale, memory, and coordination through which all of those things unfolded. That is enough to alter history without making history simple. Soon after Elia returns to Alexandria, the Charter Commission confronts one question it nearly avoided. Does a person have the right to send a message that the network does not preserve? The earliest stations kept everything because engineers needed to diagnose failure. Later archives kept copies because courts, tax offices, merchants, and security officials found them useful. Users came to assume that a private packet passed between two addresses and disappeared after delivery. It rarely disappeared. Wax copies were reused, but route ledgers remained. Important content was transferred to durable storage. Household terminals retained outgoing strips. Public clerks sometimes kept drafts. Seller's index joined those fragments into lives. Sabina proposes a rule allowing ordinary users to request destruction of message content after confirmed delivery unless a court has issued a preservation order. Senators object that criminals will use it. Merchants object that contract disputes require records. Families object that inheritance claims depend on letters. Archivists object because future knowledge may be lost. Sabina answers that future historians do not own every present conversation. The commission hall becomes quiet. Rome understands public records, sealed letters, household authority, and official secrecy. It does not possess a clear concept of informational privacy separate from property and status. An owner expects access to an enslaved person's communication. A husband may claim authority over household records. The state claims exceptional power. Wealthy people purchase discretion through private couriers. Poor users dictate messages in rooms full of strangers. From Alexandria, Elia asks the commissioners to imagine a network where every sentence spoken near a road was carved into the road's surface forever. No one wants that. Then why? She asks. Does movement through copper make possession by strangers seem natural? The final charter creates 3 storage classes: public record, transactional record, private passage. Public records remain in distributed archives. Transactional records preserve agreed details for a defined period. Private passage retains route proof, but destroys readable content after delivery unless the sender and receiver choose preservation or a court intervenes. The distinction immediately produces exceptions and abuse. Officials mark political correspondence transactional. Merchants hide contracts as private passage. Users discover that route proof can reveal as much as content. A record showing repeated contact between a senator, a frontier commander, and a weapons dealer may be meaningful even without words. Sabina proposes limits on how long route records are kept. Military officials refuse. The compromise is weak. Local law varies. Secret archives continue. Yet the phrase private passage enters Roman legal thought. People begin asking whether communication belongs to the sender, receiver, carrier, household, archive, or state. Courts produce contradictory answers. The questions arrive centuries before modern privacy law because the technology makes old assumptions visible. Elia sends Sabina the first private passage packet after returning to Alexandria. It contains only one sentence. Vera once said nothing important remains difficult forever. Sabina replies, he was right for the wrong reason. Both request deletion after delivery. Sabina secretly copies the exchange into her personal papers, then recognizes the contradiction and burns the copy. She tells Elia what she did. Elia answers that rules become real when they inconvenience the people who wrote them. The message is classified as private passage. It does not enter the official archive. Elia does not live to see the full answer. She spends 4 more years in Alexandria, teaching engineers who know the Redi as inherited infrastructure rather than impossible invention. They are impatient with stories about the first harbor line. Their relays are faster. Their insulation is better. Their mechanical encoders can punch messages into thin metal strips that feed automatically through transmitters. One student asks why the first test used a flag. Because we did not trust the wire, Elias says. Did the flag move? Yes. Then why keep testing? Because one success is a story. Repetition is a system. She dies at 92 in a room overlooking streets she can no longer walk alone. The final packet she sends to Sabina is ordinary. The harbor wind has changed. The western shutters require repair. A student named Unia asks too many questions and should be encouraged. Elia has found Lucius's old inspection report about mice and is sending a copy because Sabina accused her of inventing it. At the end she writes, "The line is quiet tonight." Sabina receives the packet the following morning. She answers before learning that Elia died during the night. Her reply remains in the Alexandria station queue because no one knows whether to deliver a message to a dead person's household. The operator finally copies it into Elia's archive. Quiet lines still need watching. Neither woman knows the exchange will become famous. Sabina dislikes the attention. She says the messages were not prophecy. They were two old colleagues refusing to become ceremonial. She leads the archive college for another 12 years. Her work shifts from designing the network to defending the conditions that make records trustworthy. Every archive copy now includes provenance, revisions, access restrictions, and known gaps. Messages altered by later governments retain earlier versions. Technical manuals list contributors. Public fora preserve moderation decisions. Private content receives stronger limits, though enforcement varies by province and ruler. The system is imperfect enough to remain political. It is strong enough to remember that imperfection. Sabina dies in 211, 88 years old. Senior archivists who trained beside her lead the college after her death. One of the children growing up around their work is Unia Felicitas, born during the early years of Severus's reign. She is the daughter of Felix, the operator once arrested in Hispania for routing dockworkers' messages. She grows up hearing that the Redi saved her father from prison and helped place him there. This prevents simple devotion. Unia studies engineering, archive law, and route governance. She learns to repair relays and distrust institutions that call maintenance a lower form of knowledge. As an adult, she joins the archive college, keeps Elia's history near her desk, and preserves copies of the first false grain warning and the Palatine message claiming Commodus was alive. Decades later, she becomes director. Students ask why the archive displays failures beside achievements. Because a system described only by success becomes advertising, Unius says. Under the Severan dynasty, the Redi expands into almost every major city of the empire and many towns beyond formal borders. Client kingdoms connect military and commercial nodes. Persian merchants use gateway stations where packets are translated and readdressed. Caravans carry punched strips between networks not yet linked by wire. Indian Ocean ports exchange market and weather reports through intermediaries. Along the northern frontiers, tribes trade information as eagerly as goods. Rome has not created a truly global electric network. It has created protocols that make distant networks compatible. That distinction shapes the future. Other states do not want Roman control of their messages. They do want rapid communication. Engineers copy batteries, relays, codes, and route methods. Some improvements return to Rome from outside the empire. Persian workshops develop more durable sealed cells. Artisans in India improve drawn wire. Scholars farther east create compact numerical codes for astronomical data. The Redi stops being exclusively Roman before Roman officials admit it. Technology travels more easily than sovereignty. The imperial government attempts export restrictions. Smugglers move manuals. Captured stations reveal mechanisms. Foreign students learn in Alexandria and Antioch. Merchants finance private lines across borders because profit ignores strategic doctrine until war reminds it. The result is not one peaceful world. It is several states able to coordinate faster. Wars become more organized. Borders receive early warnings. Armies move with better supply data. Rulers spread propaganda widely. Espionage grows technical. Codes and code-breaking become permanent professions. Sabotage targets repeaters, archives, and power cell workshops. A Roman internet gives Rome an advantage first. It also teaches rivals what advantage looks like. The economy changes slowly and then all at once in particular places. Demand for copper, zinc, iron, resin, ceramics, papyrus, and trained operators creates new industries. Mines expand. Metal refining improves. Standard measurements become economically valuable because a relay spring made in Hispania must fit a housing in Syria. Workshops use gauges copied from imperial masters. Contracts specify tolerances. This pressure toward interchangeable parts does not create modern factories immediately. It creates a reason for precision to travel. Mechanical encoders lead to printers that stamp repeated letters. Public fora and schools consume enormous quantities of text. Copying by hand cannot meet demand. Artisans develop reusable metal characters arranged in frames, first for code tables and official notices, then for books. Printing appears centuries early in the chosen branch. Cheap texts increase literacy, but printing does not automatically make education equal. Wealthy cities build schools. Rural areas remain uneven. Governments print decrees and approved histories. Religious groups print teaching. Critics print satire. For every library made accessible, a censor gains another list. The network and printing reinforce each other. The reader distributes updates quickly. Print preserves them locally. If lines fail, a city still has manuals. If books burn, distant archives can send new copies. Knowledge becomes harder to erase everywhere at once. It also becomes easier to standardize around one powerful version. Latin gains reach in Western administration. Greek remains central in Eastern scholarship. Local languages enter print where communities possess money, schools, and political will. Some decline under pressure. Others gain new writing systems because network access rewards standard forms. The internet does not flatten every language. It changes the cost of maintaining one. Experimental knowledge accumulates faster. The test and reply forum grows into colleges that require methods, dates, materials, and replication. Natural philosophers still inherit ancient assumptions. They still argue from authority. Yet repeated public contradiction makes certain errors harder to protect. Astronomers compare observations across longitudes. Doctors classify outbreaks. Engineers record load failures. Chemists experiment with metals and acids because the network itself depends on them. Mathematicians design more efficient codes and mechanical calculators for routing tables. No single field leaps directly to the modern world. Progress remains constrained by instruments, energy, materials, institutions, and imagination. But the feedback loop begins earlier. Better science improves the network. A larger network improves comparison. Standardized comparison improves science. Steam engines do not immediately replace labor simply because Romans knew steam could move objects. Ancient economies contained cheap coerced labor, expensive metal, and limited precision. The reedy changes part of that balance. Skilled operators and mechanics become valuable. Mines and workshops demand power. Pumping water from deeper shafts creates incentives that philosophical toys did not. Some regions begin using steam-driven pumps and rotary machinery centuries before the real industrial revolution. Other regions continue relying on enslaved people because owners prefer control to innovation. Technology does not abolish slavery by becoming useful. The moral struggle still has to occur. The Reti gives that struggle new forms. Legal advocates distribute accounts of abuse. Enslaved and freed people locate family. Religious and philosophical movements argue about human status before audiences across provinces. Labor associations coordinate. Runaway tracking also improves. Plantation owners share surveillance lists. Mines use registered identity tokens. For decades, the network strengthens the institution and resistance to it simultaneously. Gradual change comes from politics, economics, revolt, belief, and labor needs, not from information alone. Skilled network work makes some forms of bondage inefficient and others more profitable. Emperors issue limited protections while preserving ownership. Cities differ. Manumission expands in some regions. Revolts become harder to isolate and easier to anticipate. No clean moment in slavery across the alternate Roman world. That honesty matters. An internet invented inside a slave empire would not arrive morally neutral. Its wires would be drawn, buried, cleaned, and guarded by people with unequal freedom. Its databases would encode legal status. Its public ideals would be tested by who could send without permission. Sabina's sentence about remembering makers becomes part of every engineering oath. Later institutions quote it while still underpaying workers. A principle can survive and remain unfulfilled. The political empire enters deeper instability in the 3rd century. Emperors are elevated and killed. Armies choose claimants. Frontiers face invasion. Currency loses trust. Disease returns. Provinces act independently. In real history, the crisis of the 3rd century nearly breaks the Roman state into separate empires. The Reti changes the shape of the crisis. It does not prevent it. When Severus Alexander is killed in 235, the succession news reaches every major military command rapidly. Legions do not wait for Rome to define legality. They debate, bargain, and proclaim candidates sooner. Usurpations multiply because coordination is easier. At the same time, cities maintain grain, water, health, and trade through route councils independent of whoever claims the purple. The charter's distinction between political command and civic continuity becomes essential. A node may reject an emperor's legitimacy while still forwarding a plague warning. Two armies may fight while their cities exchange river levels. Merchants may use neutral commercial channels across hostile territories. Families continue sending messages through gateways marked non-military. Neutrality is violated repeatedly. It survives because too many people need it. Unia Felicitas is 64 when Emperor Valerian is captured by the Persian king Shapur in 260. The first reports are unbelievable. A Roman emperor has been taken alive. Palatine officials delay confirmation. Military commanders publish contradictory versions. Some say Valerian is dead. Others say he escaped. One claims the report is Persian propaganda. Unia orders every version preserved. The civic chain confirms the capture through Eastern witnesses, Persian gateway traffic, and Roman officers who survived. The political effect is enormous. Provinces no longer believe the center can guarantee defense. In Gaul, a separate imperial structure forms. In the east, Palmyrene power rises. Rome's territory fragments into competing authorities. The Reti fragments too. Military routes are cut. Codes diverge. Each regime demands control of local nodes. The nightmare seller predicted appears to arrive. Several centers, several seals, several Romes. Unia convenes the Council of Routes in Ravenna because the city remains connected by land and sea and is difficult for one army to seize quickly. Delegates arrive from Rome, Gaul, Africa, Egypt, the Balkans, eastern cities, religious institutions, merchant colleges, and technical guilds. Some travel for months. The meeting is not held entirely through the network because trust sometimes requires bodies in one room. Unia places Elia's first repeater on the central table. It no longer works. That is why it is useful, she says. No province can claim it as a weapon. The council asks a question larger than engineering. Can one communication system remain interoperable when the political empire has split? Military representatives say no. Shared protocols help enemies. Merchants say yes. Without them, famine and economic collapse worsen. Cities demand access to legal records. Physicians demand disease channels. Families demand personal routes. Rulers demand taxation and surveillance. UNIA proposes the route peace. The network will recognize political boundaries without allowing every boundary to destroy shared function. Military traffic may be blocked between hostile states. Civil channels for health, disaster, navigation, scholarship, family communication, and verified trade remain interoperable. Each regime controls local infrastructure but must publish gateway rules. Archives keep conflicting legal systems separate rather than pretending one authority remains. It is not a treaty ending war. It is a treaty admitting that enemies still share weather, disease, rivers, sea lanes, and human relationships. The route peace is accepted because no ruler gets everything. It is broken within weeks by spies using medical routes. The council adds inspections. Merchants hide military information in price packets. The council adds penalties. A governor closes a gateway during revolt. Neighboring cities open a temporary bypass. The system survives not through perfect compliance, but through repeated repair. That is another central answer to the question. A Roman internet would not make the empire permanent by making it rigid. It might survive by making Roman connectivity separable from Roman political unity. When Aurelian later reunifies much of the territory by force, he inherits a network that never fully stopped speaking across the divisions. Reunification is easier administratively because records, standards, and routes remain. It is also less complete ideologically because cities have learned they can cooperate without one uncontested emperor. The Rete extends imperial life. It also teaches institutions how to outlive emperors. Over the next centuries, the Roman state becomes more federated in this branch. Local councils, route colleges, military commands, religious organizations, and merchant leagues hold pieces of authority. Emperors remain powerful, sometimes brutally so. They cannot easily erase every independent archive or close every route without damaging their own rule. Some rulers respect the balance. Others attempt new centralization. The struggle repeats because infrastructure never settles politics permanently. Christianity spreads through the network with extraordinary speed. Letters, teachings, arguments, martyr accounts, and charitable appeals reach distant communities quickly. Persecution orders also travel quickly. Local churches warn one another. Councils compare doctrine through messages before meeting in person. Disputes that took generations in real history emerge within years. The network may accelerate Christianity's growth. It also accelerates fragmentation within Christianity. Doctrinal labels form early. Rival bishops maintain public forums. Imperial attempts to impose unity encounter archives full of competing interpretations. Councils use distributed attestation to establish which texts are older and which were altered. Forged letters are detected more often and believed anyway when useful. Other religions use the same routes. The empire does not become one belief because it possesses one network. It becomes a place where religious difference is visible at imperial scale. When a later emperor adopts Christianity, control of the Rete becomes part of religious policy. Pagan temples lose some public channels. Christian institutions gain others. Archive colleges resist deleting earlier material. Conflicts over access become conflicts over memory. The network's charter matters again, not because a document prevents intolerance, but because institutions can cite procedures while fighting it. The Western imperial court eventually faces pressures no communication system can dissolve. Large migrations, military dependence, fiscal strain, elite competition, regional inequality, disease, and external powers continue. Messages can warn that an army has crossed a river. They cannot create troops, trust, money, or food where those are absent. A faster order may reach a commander. The commander may still refuse. A more accurate tax report may reach the capital. The taxpayers may still have nothing left. A preserved engineering manual may survive. The bridge may still collapse without workers and stone. The Western imperial title weakens in the chosen future. Strong generals, federated peoples, and regional governments take territory. Rome is sacked in some branches and spared in others. An internet does not provide one guaranteed answer. In tonight's branch, the Western court loses direct control of several provinces during the 5th century. There is no single morning when everyone agrees the empire has fallen. Route councils continue operating. Successor kingdoms keep Roman nodes because tax records, trade, law, and communication depend on them. They issue their own seals while maintaining gateway compatibility. Latin changes into regional languages. The shared technical code remains more stable, like a learned language used across borders. The Eastern Empire remains stronger and wealthier. Alexandria, Constantinople, Antioch, and other cities sustain large archives and engineering schools. Western nodes depend on them for replacement parts and new standards, then develop local alternatives. Rome stops being one government before it stops being a network civilization. Future historians argue about the date of the fall. Some choose the deposition of a Western emperor. Some choose the last year a Palatine Code was recognized widely. Some reject the word fall because the institutions transformed. The argument resembles real historical debates, only with more records. The survival of records changes memory profoundly. In the real world, much ancient writing vanished through decay, war, neglect, changing taste, institutional collapse, and the ordinary fragility of papyrus and parchment. In the alternate world, distributed archives preserve far more. Works of literature survive in many copies. Scientific failures survive beside successes. Ordinary messages survive in selected collections. Court cases preserve voices from lower status people, though still filtered through institutions. The past becomes richer. It also becomes overwhelmingly large. No historian can read everything. Search indexes shape what is found. Powerful archives determine categories. Private lives are exposed. Families demand deletion. Governments alter copies. Authenticity remains contested. An internet does not end historical loss. It replaces scarcity with selection. Some messages disappear because storage media fail. Wax melts. Metal corrodes. Paper burns. Code tables become unreadable. Encrypted archives lose keys. Institutions decide that ordinary traffic is not worth preserving. The birthday invitation from a frontier fort may survive because one local operator loved the sender, while an imperial tax archive vanishes because a later government needed the bronze strips. Preservation remains a human choice made under limits. By the time Unia is old, the reedy no longer sounds like the system Ilia built. Relays chatter too quickly to distinguish individual marks. Mechanical routers read packet headers automatically. Large cities maintain computing halls where gears, drums, and electromagnetic switches sort records and calculate routes. The machines do not think. They perform decisions encoded by people. That qualification becomes important because administrators begin blaming systems for policies. A benefit application is denied because the address registry marks a family incorrectly. A merchant's packets are slowed because an automated risk table associates his district with smuggling. A religious forum disappears because a classification drum places it under sedition. Officials say the machine decided. Unia orders every automated process to preserve the rule path that produced an outcome. If a machine cannot explain which recorded rule it followed, its decision cannot be final. The rule becomes known as the visible mechanism. It is the descendant of Sabina's old distinction between source and truth. Centuries later, scholars will recognize it as an early demand for accountable computation. It does not prevent biased rules. It makes some of them inspectable. Roman engineers eventually build machines capable of storing and retrieving enormous bodies of text, calculating astronomical tables, modeling grain distribution, and controlling industrial equipment. Electricity generation improves beyond chemical cells through rotating machines driven by water and steam. Copper networks spread into homes in wealthy cities. Public access remains central elsewhere. The alternate world begins resembling modernity earlier. It does not become our modernity in Roman clothing. Its institutions, languages, religions, borders, labor systems, and scientific traditions develop from different histories. It may industrialize earlier and damage environments earlier. It may improve medicine sooner and build weapons sooner. It may connect continents and intensify imperial expansion. Information technology has no guaranteed moral direction. A Roman internet might spread citizenship. It might also administer conquest more efficiently. It might preserve indigenous languages and archives. It might replace them through standardized schooling. It might expose corruption. It might perfect surveillance. It might allow a frontier community to speak to Rome. It might allow Rome to reach farther into the frontier community. The question is not whether the internet is good enough to save Rome. The question is what Rome would teach the internet to do. Unia returns to Alexandria late in life. She carries Sabina's manumission tablet, Lucius's manure-stained credential, and a copy of Aelia's final message. The original harbor workshop has become a museum and training station. Children visit to press a replica lever and watch a flag rise across a courtyard. The demonstration is slower than the network surrounding them. That is intentional. A guide explains each stage: the cell, the current, the coil, the iron arm, the second circuit, the code, the clerk, the receiving flag. No part is hidden behind speed. Unia sits beneath an awning while a class performs the test. One child presses too briefly. The flag does not rise. Another presses too long. The receiving student records the wrong mark. The teacher asks what failed. The sender, one child says. The wire, says another. The code, says a third. The teacher, says a fourth. Unia laughs. The correct answer may include all of them. A network is never one object. It is relationships among objects, people, rules, and expectations. Reliability does not mean nothing fails. It means failures can be detected, corrected, and survived without one person controlling every answer. The children send the original sentence. The eastern gate is open. Across the courtyard, the receiving student checks the gate. It is closed. She answers, the eastern gate is closed. Your test sentence is false. The class laughs. Unia closes her eyes. She has read the description of that first exchange many times. Hearing children repeat, it does not make the story sacred. It makes the method ordinary. The message is not important because it traveled quickly. It is important because the receiver could answer. That may be the deepest change an ancient internet would bring to Rome. Empire had long excelled at sending orders outward and extracting taxes, soldiers, grain, law, and obedience inward. The Reti could strengthen that structure beyond anything ancient rulers possessed. But a network capable of reply would also make the provinces, cities, soldiers, workers, women, freed people, foreigners, religious minorities, and families more present to one another. Reply does not guarantee equality. It creates friction against perfect silence. Rome might last longer because it could coordinate. It might change sooner because more people could coordinate without Rome. It might avoid some collapses and create new ones. The political empire could become less central while Roman law, language, engineering, and network institutions spread more widely. The road system would remain. The wires would follow it, then outgrow it. Libraries would become distributed archives. Couriers would become route inspectors, technicians, and local connectors. Public fora would become both civic spaces and instruments of manipulation. History would accelerate in some dimensions and remain stubborn in others. A message could cross the Mediterranean in hours. A moral idea might still take centuries to become law. A law could reach every province quickly. Justice might still arrive late. The imagined network continues after Unia leaves the museum. Packets move through Alexandria toward ports, schools, courts, workshops, temples, and homes. Some carry poetry. Some carry prices. Some carry lies. Some carry corrections. The system does not become quiet merely because its founders are gone. It becomes inherited. That is how most transformative technology enters ordinary life. One generation experiences impossibility. The next experiences disruption. A later generation complains when it is slow. Tonight, the network can begin to dim without disappearing. Along the old Roman roads, repeater stations settle into night shifts. A technician checks acid levels in a battery room. A clerk finishes copying an emergency notice and turns to a personal message. A courier leaves a node with a packet for a village beyond the wire. Hooves move on stone beneath poles carrying copper. At Vindolanda, wind presses against the fort walls. An officer's wife composes an invitation to a friend at another station. A clerk sends it through the local node. The message joins military inventories, weather reports, requests for beer, and complaints about missing clothing. The friend receives it before the lamps are extinguished. She answers that she will come. No future historian needs to imagine whether the invitation was accepted. The reply survives in a provincial archive because the operator classified it under household correspondence rather than deleting it after delivery. Somewhere else, an archive discards a message that would have mattered more to us. Even this richly connected past cannot preserve everything. Rome itself grows quieter after midnight. The Forum is emptying. The Palatine Station still operates, but it is no longer the only light. Across the Mediterranean, thousands of nodes hold their own copies, keys, rules, and memories. No emperor can make himself alive everywhere with one seal. No charter can prevent every abuse. No network can turn millions of people into one mind. Signals move because workers remain awake. Roads remain beneath them. Ships remain on dark water. A message is only one part of an action. Grain still needs carrying. A patient still needs care. A bridge still needs stone. A frightened person still needs someone willing to answer. The question can now rest in its full uncertainty. If ancient Rome had invented the internet, Rome might have governed faster, fought more efficiently, expanded literacy, accelerated science, preserved more knowledge, and survived political fragmentation in new forms. It might also have built mass surveillance, faster propaganda, sharper inequality, more coordinated oppression, and wars conducted through information as well as steel. The empire would not simply become modern. The internet would become Roman. It would inherit roads, law, slavery, citizenship, bureaucracy, multilingual cities, military power, libraries, temples, markets, households, and the Roman habit of turning infrastructure into authority. Then people would change it. They would create public fora inside an imperial system. They would demand reply. They would hide. They would organize. They would correct. They would lie. They would preserve. They would route around a capital when the capital became the broken bridge. The first harbor line can return one last time. Elia stands with her hand on the copper lever. Lucius doubts that a mark can replace a writer. Sabina watches the code table and notices that every code contains assumptions about who will use it. Across the water, a black flag waits above an open shutter. The sea is calm. The eastern gate is closed. The false sentence begins traveling. A coil pulls an iron arm. A second circuit closes. The signal renews itself. At the far workshop, someone receives the marks, looks outside, checks the gate, and decides not merely to accept. The answer crosses back. The line clicks once, then again. A correction arrives. Beyond the imagined harbor, the real night contains no Roman wires. The ancient roads are ruins, buried paths, or modern routes laid near older ones. The messages that survived came through wood, papyrus, stone, pottery, metal, and accident. They traveled slowly enough that many answers were lost. No signal from Rome needs attention now. No imperial forum is waiting. The copper lever can remain untouched. The battery can settle. The relay arm can stop between one mark and the next. Along an imagined road, a final courier reaches a station and finds that the message has already arrived. He gives the horse water anyway. Distance still contains bodies, weather, effort, and rest. The clerk closes the wax ledger. The operator lowers the lamp. The roads hold their silence. The wires hold theirs. Nothing more needs to be transmitted tonight. Sleep well.